Last week, we began a brand new 4-part teaching series that's titled From Surviving to Thriving. And so today, my focus is, the title is, Lift What Matters. Show me a person that's just holding on, that's just making it, and I'll show you someone that's lifting things that are inconsequential. I got to go back here because I have some little goodies in my box of tricks. I got this 5-pound dumbbell over here in my left hand, and that's what a lot of people do. They lift things that don't matter. They lift only comfortable things, meaningless things. They lift busyness, but very little productivity. They lift approval because they want everybody to like them, but they may not have a life that thrives. And so they just lift comfortable things, light things, easy wins. But then you'll find some people who are thriving that they're lifting what matters. They're lifting productivity. They're lifting meaningful relationships, because what happens when they go through some difficulty in their relationship, they're willing to work through it. They're willing to hold the hard conversations. They're willing to take and make the difficult actions in order to be able to thrive. Some people love dysfunctional relationships. Others say, I can't live that way. I got to resolve the conflict. Brothers, don't worry about what this weight is. But I want to spend some time talking about how do you work through relationships that have been damaged to bring healing. And I want Jesus to teach us, because he's done that. In fact, on the Thursday before the Friday in which he was betrayed, or I should say in which he was crucified, one of his inner circle disciples, you know, he had 12 main disciples, or there were apostles. Among the inner three, Peter, James, John were the inner three. Peter denied Jesus 3 times, denied knowing him 3 times, at Jesus' weakest moment. And at the 3rd denial, when he said, I don't know him, they said, do you know Jesus? Do you know who he is? He said, I don't know him. Jesus turned his face and looked right at Peter when Peter said the 3rd time, I don't know him. And Peter dropped his head and ran out of that area because he was so embarrassed. When that happened, it damaged his relationship with Jesus. When that happened, something broke, something fractured, something became fragmented. Peter never had a chance to fix it, because afterwards Jesus was crucified, then he was buried. On the 3rd day he arose from the grave. But Jesus, being so kind and so sensitive that in his post-resurrected state, before he ascended to go to heaven, he looked for Peter. And I want to bring you to the moment where the actions that Jesus took, there were 3, they helped to lift what matters and bring healing in that relationship between he and Peter. I want to spend my time in John 21, looking at verse 1. Afterward, Jesus appeared again to his disciples by the Sea of Galilee. It happened this way. Simon Peter, Thomas, also known as Didymus, Nathanael from Cana in Galilee, the sons of Zebedee, and 2 other disciples were together. I'm going out to fish, Simon Peter told them. And they said, we'll go with you. So they went out and got into the boat, but that night they caught nothing. Early in the morning, Jesus stood on the shore, but the disciples did not realize that it was Jesus. He called out to them, friends, haven't you any fish? No, they answered. He said, throw your net on the right side of the boat and you'll find some. When they did, they were unable to haul the net in because of the large number of fish. Then the disciple whom Jesus loved said to Peter, it is the Lord. As soon as Simon Peter heard him say, it is the Lord, he wrapped his outer garment around him, for he had taken it off, and jumped into the water. The other disciples followed in the boat, towing the net full of the fish, for they were not far from shore, about 100 yards. When they landed, they saw a fire of burning coals there with fish on it and some bread. Stop there. I want us to go and stand by the shore there at the Sea of Galilee and watch this exchange occur, because there may be some damaged relationship in your life, be it in the home, in the family, in your neighborhood, on the job, in your school, that you may not know what to do to repair it, but one thing you can attest to is this: it doesn't feel good to have that open, unresolved conflict still out there. It doesn't create a vibrant, flourishing, thriving life in here. Let's check out Jesus. 7 of the remaining 11 apostles are out fishing on the boat. They're frustrated coming back from fishing all night, nothing to show for their hard work. And they just hear a voice from the shore. Hey, you guys caught any fish? No. So they're yelling back, no. John tells Peter, it's Jesus. Peter jumps out of the boat and starts swimming to the shore. About 100 yards, some 300 feet to the shore. So we know Peter can swim. Did you know Jesus can cook? Did you know he knows how to fry fish? Scripture says he's preparing fish, breakfast, and he has bread there. So he's getting this meal. But I want you to understand, something's going on in Peter's heart that is so problematic that he doesn't know what to do. How do I repair my relationship with Jesus? The problem is not on Jesus' side. The problem is on his side. What do you do? And Jesus is going to make it easy. He's going to show us what we must do to repair a relationship and to lift what matters. So let me frame it this way. To lift what matters, Jesus set out to lift the silence. See, silence can kill relationships, especially the ones struggling because they've been damaged or they're struggling with problems. Jesus sought out his disciples. Peter was among them. So Peter now, you can imagine how he was feeling, having denied knowing Jesus 3 times at Jesus' most painful moment in his life, the point where he's being crucified. Peter was buried under guilt and shame. There are 2 different kinds of emotions. Guilt says, I did something wrong. Shame says, I am something wrong. Very different. Peter was unsure as to where he stood spiritually or positionally among the 11 disciples, among the 11 apostles. He didn't know. Judas had hung himself, so he's no longer there. That was the 12th. So there's just 11 apostles. And there were just 7 on this trip together. Peter, he was there, but he didn't know where he really stood. It was awkward. The moment, it was tender. He's just there. He's probably quiet. He's probably not himself. He's retreated internally. See, he used to be one of Jesus' inner circle of 3 now. I don't know if I'm one of the guys. More importantly, Peter did not know where he stood relationally with the Lord. I don't know. I don't know if Jesus will welcome me. I don't know if he'll accept me. I don't know if he wants any part of me. I have no idea. I don't know. In fact, when Jesus first met Peter, he said, you are, and then he called him the rock. So he described him. This is your personality. You're going to be a foundation pillar for the church. Peter may have thought, I don't know if I'm the rock any longer. I don't know. So Peter's denial created this huge distance in his relationship with the Lord. And you may be sitting here right now or watching online and you feel as if God wants no part of you. You may be feeling so withdrawn, so emotionally disconnected, so distant from the Lord, you feel as if I'm here, but I know he doesn't want me. And I'm saying to you, Jesus doesn't behave like human beings. The uncertainty that Peter must have felt was so unbearable. And the silence may have been deafening to him. One of the American psychologists and author, Lisa Aronson Fontes, said, "Silence is a relationship killer. It is a form of emotional abuse." But Jesus did not want to maintain that kind of silence that's damaging into relationship. No, he couldn't do that and not be Jesus. And you can't do that either and not be one of his followers. A follower of Jesus can't behave in a way that doesn't fit what their Lord behaves as. What did Jesus do to lift the silence? To lift the silence, show up first. Jesus didn't wait for Peter to approach him. Jesus showed up first. Verse 4 of John 21 says, early in the morning, Jesus was standing on the shore of the lake. But the disciples did not know that it was Jesus who stood there. See, Jesus showed up first. He stood there at the lake. He knew that his disciples were there. He knew Peter was there. He didn't wait for Peter to try to find out where he was or live with this big question mark in his heart as to where he stood with Jesus. No, not so. Jesus wanted to break that silence. So he lifted the silence. Now, silence has two sides to it. It can either be helpful or it could be harmful. And so when you think about harmful silence is when you say nothing to the person. Harmful silence, it feeds whatever may have eroded the relationship away. Harmful silence makes your mind play all kinds of tricks. Jesus didn't stand by the shore. Hey guys, not you, Peter. Hey guys, have you caught anything? And when they all came to the shore, he turned his back up to Peter. You guys hungry? No, he didn't do that. Because harmful silence, it deepens the wounds and exaggerates the conflict in the minds of the feuding party. But the other kind of silence, helpful silence, it is a cooling down period to gain perspective and composure. It allows you to select language that supports talks of reconciliation. Helpful silence allows you the needed time to put the silence or put the conflict into perspective. See, the helpful silence was there. Peter is processing. He's working through all those internal angst and trying to figure it out. And Jesus now, he lifts the silence. Why? Because he doesn't want Peter to fall into the trap of harmful silence. And if you've been walking around in your home and this is like a cold war in your house and you're just silent and you think that, well, it's good. And no. If it goes on for an extended period of time, it's not helpful silence. It's harmful silence. And that relationship is far too precious for you to leave that way. And if you leave it like that, all you're doing is lifting this lighter weight. I'm not going to say anything because if I say anything, it's just going to be problematic. And you're just lifting a lighter weight and keeping the relationship dysfunctional, because to keep a dysfunctional relationship, it's light. Anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. But to lift a heavier weight, it means then that you're willing to hold some conversations. Honest ones, vulnerable ones, tearful ones. Why? Because you know it's not healthy to just be in survival mode. It's really healthy to be in thriving mode. A German proverb said, silence is a fence around wisdom. So Jesus realized that to lift the silence, speak first. Jesus didn't wait for Peter to broach the awkwardness of the relationship. Jesus lifted the silence by asking a question. And verse 15 introduces us to the question Jesus posed to lift the silence between he and Peter. When they had finished eating, John 21:15 says, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. You know what I love about this? When Jesus lifted the silence by speaking first, he wasn't focusing on who's right, who's wrong. He's not focusing on that. That's too immature. That won't really move the needle, forward in regards to the relationship and healing. Jesus didn't use blame. He didn't replay Peter's failure. His question simply invited Peter into a light for healing rather than remain in darkness of pain. Lifting the silence means lifting what hurts without fearing it or being defined by it. Jesus did not want Peter to stay under that rock and the heaviness of his denial. No. I want you to see that's what you got to do in your relationship. And you may say, well, you don't know what they did. You're right, I don't know. But are you saying, are you going to be the smaller person or the bigger person? Are you going to follow Jesus' pattern or you have your own pattern? And in the words of Dr. Phil, how's that working for you? See, a lot of times we have all of these answers that, hey, you don't know, they hurt me, they did this. And you're absolutely correct. They offended you. They caused the pain. They initiated the offense. That's what Peter did. Jesus didn't deny Peter. Peter denied Jesus. Not once, not twice, but thrice. And Jesus still lifted the silence by showing up first and by speaking first. So to lift what matters, let me show you what else Jesus did. He set out to lift the distance. See, what Jesus did, he created an opportunity for them to reconnect. Emotional distance must be reversed in order to heal frayed relationships. You can't say we're healed. They're all over there. And I'm all over here. We love each other. We're good. Do you ever get in touch with them? No. How's the relationship? Oh, man, it's great. Let me go over to these dumbbells and show you what you're doing. What you're doing is just lifting the light stuff. But what Jesus did was to lift the heavy stuff. He lifted what matters. Because John 21 verse 12 says, Jesus said to them, come and have breakfast. None of the disciples dared ask him, who are you? They knew it was the Lord. So Jesus then lifted a distance. Peter didn't sit down and then Jesus scoot over. Yeah. You other guys, come sit here. Peter, move down. No, it wasn't anything like that. He didn't say that this breakfast, I only have enough for 6 other people. Peter, I'm sorry. No, he lifted the distance. And the breakfast, the fish and the bread, it was more than a meal. It wasn't about a meal. It was that this social time was to bring healing. It's about fellowship. It's about reconnecting. Eating lifts the emotional distance between you and the other person. See, before the one-on-one moment that Jesus knew he needed to have with Peter, and Peter needed to have with him, Jesus included Peter in a shared meal with the other disciples. No difference in treatment. This wasn't just about food, it was about inclusion. Inclusion breaks isolation. And lifting the distance, it's not just having the meal, it's bringing focus to the relationship. Let me show you how Jesus brought focus to the relationship as he lifted the distance. Verse 15 begins that process. When they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus said, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Jesus, he brought focus to the need for a relationship reset, a do-over, a fresh start, a new beginning. In the golfing world, a mulligan. That's why he asked 3 questions. 3. Do you know what Peter's least favorite number was? 3. And so when Jesus asked him a 3rd time, oh man. Growing up in New York, they used to have a system in the educational system or process where in the middle school, they would have what they call SP classes, special pupil. So those are kids that showed more, they were smarter academically. So they would have SP1, SP2, SP3, SP4. So you might have 30 kids in SP1, 30 in 2, 3 and 4. And so those are kids then they're gonna accelerate the 7th grade, and they're gonna make sure you skip the 8th grade and go to the 9th grade afterwards. So from 7th to 9th, boom, you skip a whole grade. Then after 7 SP4, they ranked the other groupings of students, of middle schoolers, all the way from 7-1 to 7-21. That means another 30 set of kids in 7-21. My cousin and I were the same age. I was in one of the SP classes. I just had to throw it out there. So I skipped the 8th grade. and he was in 7-15. Now, Stuart was no dummy. He was smart, but he just didn't want to do his work. He wanted to fool around. But let me tell you how bad I was. Every time Stuart came over, no matter what time of the day it was, I'd say, what time is it? I'm saying that to my siblings, or even just saying out loud. What time is it? Even if it was 9 o'clock in the morning. I'd say, oh, it's 7:15. If it was 3 in the afternoon, what time is it? And they knew where I was going because I was bad. And I just yell out, it's 7:15, and Stuart would feel bad. Fast forward, Stuart earns his Ph.D. He's doing traveling for his company. He's going through the airport now in his 40s. And he's going through the airport. And then he hears as he's walking through the airport, those who are on flight 7:15 come to this gate. Stuart said when he heard 7:15, he started shaking. I had so traumatized him that even in his 40s, he's shaking. But I want you to see, I don't know if Peter shook when Jesus asked him the 3rd time, Peter, do you love me? I can tell you this. It showed that there was a problem that Peter was struggling with relationally. The first time when Jesus said to Peter, the first question, do you love me more than these? It was... The meaning of it was, do you love me more than these other apostles love me? Because Peter, prior to this, and Matthew 26, verse 33 records it, Peter was so haughty and so cocky and so overly confident when Peter said to Jesus in front of all the other disciples, he said, look, if all these guys deny you, I'll never deny you. Not me, them. They may be here, but I'm here in my commitment. Those weak apostles, they may deny you, but not me, not moi. I'm your man. You and I are like this, Jesus. Then when it came down, none of the others denied Jesus, but Peter, not once, not twice, but thrice. And so Jesus said, do you love me more than these? And Peter says, he didn't even use a comparative response. He said, Lord, you know I love you. I'm not even comparing myself. I messed up before. I'm sober now of myself. I'm sober about. I'm not going to be cocky. I'm not going to be confident because I saw what I did before. And now, And then Peter was so sober about himself when Jesus said, do you love me more than these? Jesus used the Greek word for the English word love. There are several Greek words for the English word love. This word is agapeo. And we can also use the word agape. Agape love means the God kind of love, the highest moral love, the highest level of ethical love. That means I love you where I want the best for you. Forget about me. Forget about me. It's about you. I want the best for you. Jesus says, do you love me where you want the best for me? Peter says, you know I love you. But he didn't use that same Greek word, agapeo. He used the word phileo, which means that it's a love that it's about me. It means that I find delight in you, Jesus. I like you, Jesus. I'm fond of you, Jesus. So when Jesus said to Peter, Peter, do you love me? Peter responds back, I'm fond of you. In other words, I'm so sober, I'm not even going to go there because I don't want to mess up again. Then Jesus asked him the question a second time, do you love me? And Jesus again used that word, agape. Do you agape me? Do you love me with a God kind of love? Peter downgraded that same verb and he said, I phileo you. I like you, Jesus. And Jesus, you know what he did? He didn't condemn Peter. He didn't say, how could you have that kind of love for me? Don't you know better? Why don't you get your act together? Look at how much I did for you. Look what I've done. Look how, I set you free from a world of sin. I saved your soul. I paid the debt that you owed God when I went to the cross. Can't you love me with the highest love? Jesus didn't do any of those things. No speeches, no condemnations, no rebukes, no punishment, no scolding, none of those kinds of harshness. Jesus asked the question a third time, do you love me? And when Jesus used that word love the third time, he had downgraded his love to meet Peter right where he was. He says, Peter, do you phileo me? Do you like me? And Peter says, yeah, I like you. I want you to see when you're lifting the distance, you meet people where they are. You don't try to manipulate. You don't try to preach at them. You don't try to condemn them. You don't rebuke them. You don't, scold them. That's not how you bring healing to a relationship that's tender and that's fragile. And it happens not only within the family, it happens if you're a cheerleader on your cheerleading squad. It happens if you're on a baseball team in high school. It should happen on your job with your colleagues. It should happen with your next door neighbor. It has to happen with your siblings, and you haven't spoken in years, and you haven't gone to each other's home, and you say, you don't know what they've done, but I know who you are. You're a follower of Jesus. You don't roll that way. You can't. Jesus says, people know that you are my disciple. You are my disciplined follower by how you have love one for another. There must be a distinction in how you live and how you act and how you behave. You don't want to be someone walking around, all you do is lift light things that are inconsequential, things that don't matter. But Jesus says, I want you to lift what matters. I want you to lift relationships that are broken, that are frayed, that are dysfunctional. I want you to take those things. I want you to live purpose. I want you to live soul care. I want you to take care of your mental health. I want you to thrive. Don't walk around living like someone who's just surviving, holding on, just barely making it. No, I want you to thrive. I want you to flourish. I want you to be fruitful. I want you to be vibrant because you lift what matters. That's what Jesus has called us to do. In the world of basketball, in 2010, LeBron James shocked the Cleveland community when he told the Cleveland Cavaliers that he signed contracts with the Miami Heat. His issue was, he said, I need to get an NBA ring. I need to get a championship ring. And so the Cleveland Cavaliers, their owner, Dan Gilbert, was so angry that he put a letter out there publicly so that the whole world can read it. And he called LeBron's decision, quote, a cowardly betrayal. Their relationship collapsed overnight. The first time LeBron came, when he's on the Miami Heat, he came to Cleveland to play. The arena erupted with boos. Fans had burned his T-shirt. They were so angry and charged with resentment. But LeBron stayed composed and he played to his best ability. Then fast forward in 2014, LeBron returns to become a player on the Cleveland team, the Cleveland Cavaliers. And before he announced it publicly, he and Dan Gilbert, the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, they met face to face and they lifted the distance and they lifted the silence. And LeBron said, who am I to hold a grudge? And they buried the hatchet, held out the olive branch to each other, and their relationship was reconnected and restored. I want you to see if these individuals that are so famous, so popular on the world stage, if they can learn to bury the hatchet, why can't you bury the hatchet and resolve the conflict in your circumstance? Why are you making this thing more complicated than it is? Is it because you just like lifting light stuff? You were not meant to live that way. God didn't design you to be someone who's an expert on lifting light stuff. Greater is He that's in you than he that's in the world. The Lord designed you, He designed me, designed us to be able to lift heavy things. And I want you to see that. So what Jesus demonstrated for us with Peter is that He lifted the silence. He lifted the distance. And let me tell you a third thing that Jesus did, which I'm so thankful for because it's such a model for us. He lifted their value, or lifted Peter's value. See, I want you to think about how Peter felt. He felt like a nobody, a nothing. His betrayal had brought him to, it's almost like someone who's lost a lot of weight and they're emaciated, just a bag of skin and bones. That's how Peter may have felt in his heart. And I bring you back to verse 15 of John 21 so I can point out for you how Jesus was skillful and tactical in lifting Peter's value. Verse 15 says, when they had finished eating, Jesus said to Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, he said, you know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my lambs. Again, Jesus said, Simon, son of John, do you love me? He answered, yes, Lord, you know that I love you. Jesus says, take care of my sheep. The third time he said to him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Peter was hurt because Jesus asked him the third time, do you love me? He said, Lord, you know all things. You know that I love you. Jesus said, feed my sheep. Very truly I tell you, when you were younger, you dressed yourself and went where you wanted. But when you're old, you will stretch out your hands and someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go. Jesus said this to indicate the kind of death by which Peter would glorify God. Then he said to him, follow me. Notice now, I want you to put yourself in the shoes of Peter. You feel bad about yourself. You're under the weight of grief and shame. And Jesus, in his tender way, he says, do you love me? Do you agapeo me? Do you love me with the highest moral love? And you say, I'm fond of you. And then Jesus says, feed my lambs. In other words, I'm not going to scold you because you didn't answer in a way that was the highest level of love. I'm not going to scold you. I won't reprimand you. I won't condemn you. I won't even speak harshly to you. But what I'm going to do to show you that I value you and you have great value, and your identity is not shaped by your denial. You're bigger than your mistake, Peter. Would you feed my lambs? God's highest possession are people. And the Bible uses the word sheep and lambs to describe people that are in God's sheep pen or God's family. And so think about it this way. The lambs are the ones that are so young, they're so immature, they don't know what to eat and what not to eat. They don't know what's bad or what's good in terms of grass or something may have been disease. They don't know what's a predator, a wolf. They may think it as a friend when it's a foe. They don't know. And so here's Jesus. Jesus says, Peter, I have such value on you. I impute such value. I have such high regard for who you are, your person, your gifting, your calling to shepherd and care for my flock that I say, Peter, feed my lambs, the little ones, the tender ones, the ones that are the beginners, the neophytes. They have no idea what to do. Peter, I know that you're going to be tender with them because your brokenness made you tender. Your failings made you sensitive. That denial that happened, it took the cockiness out of your heart. You're not going to walk around with this proud, egotistical, self-righteous manner any longer. You're going to be sober, and you're going to be gentle, and you're going to be kind, and you're going to be patient because you saw yourself. You saw that you're not all that. But I want you to know that I don't want to rub your nose in all of that. I want to show you that you have value to me. Peter, feed my lambs. Then the second time Jesus said, Peter, do you love me? And Jesus said, I like you. Peter said, take care of my sheep. Protect my sheep, the older ones. Guard them. Provide a repository where they have community, where they won't hurt each other. That the male sheep the rams, they won't buck their heads against each other. That they're going to love each other within a community because you've created safety. You've made sure there's food. You've made sure that the focus is not on the shepherd, but the focus is on the welfare of the sheep. You won't be all about you. You won't be bringing attention to you. You'll be bringing attention to them. That's why you know, even as a pastor, going on 40 years of pastoral ministry next year, let me tell you what the strong, godly, mature pastors who are Christ-like in their behavior, when they see me and meet me, you know what they ask? You know what they say? They don't ask, how big is the church? How many services you have? How many campuses? You never hear them say that. They'll say, how's Marlinda? How are your daughters? How's your son-in-law? How are the other pastors? How's the congregation? How are you caring for each other? How are you growing in Christ? Are you okay, David? That's what they ask. You know what the young whippersnappers say? How big is the church? How many services you have? And you can tell that they have the wrong priorities. And Jesus is saying, Peter, I value you. And so here's what I want. Can you take care of my sheep? And then third question, he said, do you love me? Jesus was saying, do you like me, Peter? Are you fond of me? Peter says, I'm fond of you. I like you. So their words aligned. And Jesus said, I want you to take care of my sheep. I want you to feed my sheep. Make sure they're growing up. Make sure they're maturing. Make sure they're becoming godly. Make sure they're emulating who I am. And then Jesus ends this way. I just want to show you how he's lifting Peter's value. He said, Peter, follow me. Man, it have been the two sweetest words Peter's heard. Jesus, you still want me to follow you? Even though I messed up? Even though I blew it? Even though I denied you at your weakest moment? And Jesus, in a flat-footed way, in a way that he didn't equivocate, he didn't vacillate, he didn't stammer. He said, follow me. You have value. I see worth in you. You have dignity. I know who you are at the core. You were just afraid. You just spoke in a knee-jerk way. I know who you are. You're still the rock. You're still the shepherd. You're still the apostle of God. You still have value. That's why I know who you are. And I want you to know today, if you're someone that's walking around having failed, having fallen short, and you're beating yourself up, and you're walking around thinking that you're a loser and you're nobody, I want you to know that by the authority of Scripture, I say to you, follow Jesus. Get back up. Don't stay there on the floor. Don't wallow in self-pity. Get up and start to lift what matters. You're not called to lift light stuff. Stay away from light stuff. Lift the heavy stuff. Lift broken relationships, the fragmented ones, the ones that's frayed, the one that's problematic. Lift them. So why? Because Jesus wants you to thrive and not simply survive. Come on, someone give the Lord praise today. That's the God that we serve. Will it be easy? Absolutely not. Is it worth it? Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can do it with the help of God.